Kyla, and welcome back to the Infinite Library, and today we're going to be kicking off the second part of my reading the Goodreads Awards of 2023. Excuse the bad lighting, it is dark and rainy and miserable. It's July, it's almost August, but this is the weather we're dealing with. So yeah, I've done the best that I can, but we're going to have a moody atmosphere for this one. And if you haven't seen the first part of this little project I'm doing, link above. Basically what I'm doing for this project is that I am looking back at the Goodreads Awards from last year, and I am just having a look and seeing what I think of the nominations that have actually been picked for the different genres, because some of them were surprises, some of them I'm very happy with being in certain categories, and others I'm just a bit like not sure. And then also I am doing this as a way to kind of make myself read outside of my comfort zone and to try some categories of books that maybe like genre wise I don't typically go for. So, second part of the video today, and what we are going to be doing is we are going to be reading history and biography, which is apparently one category. I feel like history should be like separate from biography. It's a little bit confusing given that we actually do have like a memoir section, which is different, so I feel like the title is not great. But I'm going to be reading 3 books from that category, and I'm going to be pitting them against the YA fiction category. Both extremely different kind of categories, extremely different audiences. I occasionally do read YA fiction, but I generally read more YA fantasy. So fiction is actually not something that I read that much in the YA section. We did adult fiction in the first video, which was also interesting because, again, fiction isn't necessarily a genre, like just literary fiction, not necessarily something that I tend to go for. And history, biography, again, not something I read really. I'm not really a big non-fiction reader, like at all. Like occasionally I'll pick up stuff, it'll mostly be like self-help stuff. I read a lot of like biographies and memoirs and stuff, I find that interesting, but I don't tend to read like history. Which is funny because I'm actually really quite into history. Like at one point in my life I wanted to be an archaeologist. I'm more interested in like more ancient history and history in other countries, so like not America or the UK to be honest, because I feel like that's what we always tend to see and get taught. So I'm hoping I'll find some interesting things in both of these categories, maybe find some new favourites, we'll see. Like I got lucky in the first video and I actually did manage to find some new favourites, which was great. But we'll see, because this is a very mixed bag of genres, both of which I don't really read from very often. So yeah, as before, we're going to go through the categories together and I'm going to pick 3 from each one that I'm going to read. Ideally, I'm going to be picking the winner and the runner-up, unless they are books I've either already read or they're like books in a like for the like the YA fiction. History won't really be books in a series, but if it's like say the 4th book in a series, and I'm not going to read the rest of the series to do that unless it's like a series I'm already up to date with, so I'm not going to be doing that, in which case I'll just skip to the next one. So my aim really is to be picking like the winner, the runners-up as best as I can, and then I'm just going to pick one other from the whole category, which is something I find interesting. So it's not necessarily going to be like the highest rated, it could be the lowest rated, but I am going to pick one that I think genuinely is something that I would find interesting. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, over to Kyla looking at the categories now. Okay, so let us have a look at the 2 categories. So we're going to have a look at history and biography first. I always think that's weird that we've got biography with history and then we've got autobiography and memoir as like a different category. I feel like biography could kind of go with the others, but that's just my thoughts on the matter. So, as you can see, I'm already currently reading one because I'm a little bit ahead of myself. The winner for Best History and Biography is The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny and Murder by David Gran. I don't know if I'm that interested in this, I'll be honest. The premise does sound interesting. It is basically about this ramshackle vessel called The Wager, which kind of washes up on Brazil in 1742, sorry. Inside, 30 emaciated men, barely alive, were there. They basically said that they left England 2 years ago on a secret mission during an imperial war with Spain. The Wager had been chasing a Spanish treasure-filled galleon known as the Prize of All the Oceans, but was wrecked on a desolate island off the coast of Patagonia. The men were marooned for months, eventually built a flimsy craft and sailed for more than 100 100 days. They were greeted as heroes, but then 6 months later, another craft appeared off the coast of Chile containing only 3 people, and they said that people in Brazil were actually mutineers. And yeah, something major happened on the ship basically, and it becomes a bit of a court case about which of them is telling the truth, accusations of treachery and murder. And yeah, this is by the same person that wrote Killers of the Flower Moon that I know like got a film recently. I'm not super interested in that. And this sounds okay. Off the premise alone, I'd say it actually does sound quite interesting. But I know that Lala read this and she was like, it's kind of boring. So I'm going to read this I'm actually reading it as we speak because I'm a bit ahead of myself. And I'm reading this by audiobook. But I have got a physical copy on the way from the library. But I thought I'd start it with audiobook because it is a chonker. Oh, it's not a chonker. It's like 300 pages. I feel like it was a chonker. But it's the winner. So I'm definitely going to try and read it. I don't know if I'm going to find it that interesting. I'm only a little way in. And I'm not too into it. But it's the winner, so I am going to pick it. Let's have a look at the other options. So the runner-up is The Six, The Untold Story of America's First Women Astronauts by Lauren Grush. This sounds quite interesting, actually. I didn't even know there were female astronauts. I'm not super into, like, space travel and that, but this does sound genuinely interesting. So, originally when astronauts went to the moon in the 60s and 70s, the agency excluded women from the corps, arguing that only military test pilots, a group made up exclusively of men, because of course, had the right stuff. Eventually, NASA recognized its blunder and opened the application process, and then 6 women were selected in 1978, who were known as the Six. And I guess they went to space. Oh shit, okay. One of the group, Judy Resnick, sacrificed her life when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded at 46,000 feet. Everyone knows of Sally Rye's history making first space ride, but each of the 6 would make their mark. Yeah, okay, I'm quite interested in this, not gonna lie, because I'll be honest, this is obviously like American history and I'm British. I didn't know a damn thing about this. I didn't even know there was female astronauts. So I'm genuinely quite interested in this one to find out about it. It is about 400 or so pages. The author has written a few other things before from the looks of it. Does she always write non-fiction? Let's have a look. Oh, she's a space reporter. The daughter of 2 NASA engineers. Okay, cool. So she very much... this is the other book she's written. But it sounds like she's very much like the right person to be writing this. So yeah, I'm intrigued. So now let's have a look at the other books in this category. Ooh, we have a witch hunting one. Killing the Witches, Bill O'Reilly and Martin Duguid, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. I'm very interested in this because I actually really want to learn more about the witch hunts. So I guess this is a collaboration. It goes back to the events of 1692 and 1693 in Salem. So it's right back to the beginning of like the Salem witch trials then. Oh yeah, I think this might be the one because I'm very intrigued by this, but I'm gonna have a look at the other options. But like, I think just because I kind of am interested in this. King Alive, I'm not super interested. This is a biography. I kind of wanted to stick more to the history in this, not gonna lie. This is about Martin Luther King Jr. It's probably very good, but I'm honestly not super interested right now. Valiant Women. This is another one. Why are all these American? The Extraordinary American Service Women Who Helped Win World War II. I'll be honest, I'm really not interested in World War stuff. Then we've got Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed Story of America. Again, America. This one does sound interesting though. I guess it's just about like rewriting. Yeah, it presents a more accurate version of American history. Could be an option. Could be an option. Fever in the Heartland. Oh, Ku Klux Klan. Okay. As interested as I am in cult stuff, I don't know if I want to read this right now. This seems heavy. Set in the 20s and the Jazz Age. I am kind of interested to read this, not gonna lie. But I don't know if I want to read it right now. It feels kind of heavy. I'm going to add it to my read list though because I'm actually quite intrigued by it. I refuse to read an Elon Musk book. Nope, we're not even going there. Okay, Pathogenesis, a history of the world in 8 plagues. Oh, this sounds depressing. It's about genetics, anthropology, archaeology, and economics. Takes us through 60,000 years of history. Given the pandemic that happened a few years back, I don't really want to read this right now. So I think it's a cool idea, but nah, I'm good. Okay, Aster, is this another biography? The history of the legendary American family, the Astors, and how they built and nabbed their fortune. Never heard of them. German immigrant, first arrived in the United States in the 1700s. His great whatever son was convicted of defrauding his elderly mother. It sounds like a rich white people kind of book. I'm good, I think. The Earth Transformed, an Untold History. Oh, it's about climate change. No, I'm good. I don't really want to read something like that right now. Book of Charlie. The biography then, I guess this one is. Wisdom from the remarkable American life of a 109-year-old man. One of our nation's most prominent writers finds the truth about how to live a long and happy life in the centenarian next door. So it's kind of almost sounds like fiction, to be honest. It's about a journalist who meets his neighbour, who's more than a century. Little did he know that he was beginning a long friendship and a profound lesson in the meaning of life. Okay. Yeah, so it's just about him living 100 years, basically. It's kind of his story. Sounds kind of interesting, but again, this feels very memoir, and I don't want to be reading a memoir for this. Star-Crossed. A true Romeo and Juliet story in Hitler's Paris. Oh, it's a World War One. Jewish teenager and a dashing young Catholic poet. Oh, it's gonna get depressing, isn't it? It is Romeo and Juliet, so of course that means they're both gonna die. So yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Oh, I've heard of this. Master, Slave, Husband, Wife. The remarkable true story of Ellen and William Craft, who escaped slavery through daring determination and disguise, with Ellen passing as a wealthy, disabled white man and William posing as his slave. Interesting. So they self-emancipate themselves. It sounds really interesting, actually. I think that might be an option. When Crack Was King. Is this like a drug thing? Because I'm not interested. If so, I really don't like stuff about drugs. Yeah, it is. About the crack epidemic of the 1980s and 1990s. No. The Nazi conspiracy. I really don't want to read anything. I'm just point right refusing to read World War stuff, I think. Yeah, this is about a plot to kill Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill. Nope. The Confidant. The untold story of the woman who helped win World War II and shape modern America. It's probably quite interesting, to be honest. What did she do? That's what I'm intrigued about. Anna Rosenberg emerged from modest immigrant beginnings. The story remains largely forgotten. She became friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. She was dubbed my Mrs. Fix-It. Oh, she was almost going to become the Assistant Secretary of Defense, but because she was a woman, I guess, there was a smear campaign against her. She fought tirelessly for causes from racial integration to women's equality to national healthcare. Sounds like an amazing woman, not gonna lie, but do I want to read about her? Not really. Okay, let's have a look at the last 3 and see if any of them look like they're going to be of interest. Rough Sleepers. Oh, this is about homeless people, I think, isn't it? Okay, so it looks like it's someone who basically is on a mission to bring healing to homeless people, and I suppose kind of spread awareness about that. It sounds important, but also it sounds very depressing and not something I want to read. I have a bit of anxiety around homelessness, mostly because coming from a poor income family, it was a very real fear of mine for quite a while, and I don't think I'm in a good mental space right now to read more intensely about that, so I'm going to pass on this one. There Will Be Fire. Margaret Thatcher, the IRA in 2 minutes that changed history. I have no interest in that, so goodbye. And finally, Going Infinite, the rise and fall of a new tycoon. Oh, this is just like a CEO memoir, isn't it? Yeah, it's about someone called Bankman Fried, the world's youngest billionaire and crypto's Gatsby. No, I'm good, thank you. Okay, so I'm definitely reading The Wager. I'm definitely reading The Six. My options are between Killing the Witches, which I'm very interested in. Black AF sounds really interesting. I do kind of want to read A Fever in the Heartland, but not right now. Master, Slave, Husband, Wife does sound really interesting as well. Honestly, I think I want to read about witch trials. That's just something I'm genuinely interested in, and yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I know it's probably not the most, like, thoughtful option. I know I could be reading one of these other ones, which are probably, like, a lot more, probably deserve the award more, but I did say that my third one would be the one I'm most interested in, and that is Killing the Witches. So yeah, I think The top 3 are going to be my choices for this. If for some reason I decide I'm really not enjoying one of these though, I'll pick up one of the others. I'll probably pick up Master, Slave, Husband, Wife. I think that interests me the second most. So the other one that we are going to read then for this month is YA fiction. So let's go have a look. Okay, so the winner for the month was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, which is her YA debut. And I'm not super interested in Ali Hazelwood, but this is a chess story, and I'm kind of intrigued by that. It's about a girl called Mallory Greenleaf. It looks like she's quitting chess, but she agrees to play one last charity tournament and inadvertently wipes the board with the notorious king killer Nolan Sawyer, current world champion and reigning bad boy of chess, because that's a thing apparently. So she ends up, I guess, getting back into chess and finding her love for the sport again, and having a romance obviously as well. But it actually sounds quite interesting. Like I am very intrigued in like a romance where the main passions of the protagonist are more a core of the story than the romance. So it has actually dropped rating since last time around. It's currently sitting at 3.99, but yeah, I'm happy to read this, I think. I guess this will be my very first Ali Hazelwood, which is quite funny because I think most people read her adult romance. Okay, so the runner-up is The Brothers Hawthorne, which is the 4th book in the Inheritance games. I'm not reading this. I read the 1st book in the Inheritance games series. I didn't really like it. I found it to be very mid, so I'm not reading that. Which means the 2nd book, which I have to pick, is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. I've never read Holly Jackson before, but I've always wanted to. And this is a standalone, so I can get away with this one. This is about a group of 5 friends who go on a road trip. Her best friend, the older brother, his perfect girlfriend, a secret crush, a classmate, and a killer. So the RV breaks down, they realise it's not an accident, and I guess of the 6 people we know, one of them is gonna die. 8 hours, 6 friends, 5 survive. That sounds like a good time, honestly. I like the idea of a thriller. So yeah, I'm kind of down to read that. It's still got quite a high rating. It's sitting at a 4.07. I know Holly Jackson wrote A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I've not read, but I wouldn't mind reading one day. So yeah, number 1, number 2, let's have a look at the other options. So we have One of Us is Back, which is the 3rd book in the One of Us is Lying series. I read the 1st book. It was just okay. I didn't really love it, so I'm not going to read that one. I don't want to carry on that series. Immortality, a love story. I actually really do want to read this series, but this is the 2nd book, and I don't really want to rush read the 1st one. It's not high on my TBR list. So this would be an option, but I don't want to read the 1st book just yet, so I'm not going to read this one. I want to pick like a standalone, I think, for this. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. I actually really do want to read this. I have a couple of other Talia Hibbert books. I have one of her adult books, and this one sounds really good. This one is basically about these 2 teenagers that go away to like a camp thing and are in a competition to beat one another. And it sounds really good, not gonna lie, so I guess it's an option. Warrior Girl Unearthed. Let's have a look at that one. So this is a contemporary mystery. Harry Firekeeper Birch was ready for her summer as slack, but instead, after a fender bender that was entirely not her fault, she's stuck working to pay back her aunt for repairs to the Jeep. So she's on a summer program basically with other people. Together they ace obstacle courses, plan vigils for missing women in the community, and make sure Summer doesn't feel so lost after all. But when she attends a meeting at the local university, Perry learns about the Warrior Girl, an ancestor whose bones and knife are stored in the museum archives, and everything changes. Perry has to return Warrior Girl to her tribe. Determined to help, she learns all she can about it. So it's kind of about her learning about her heritage, I guess. And she teams up with other people to do that. Sounds interesting, not gonna lie. Sounds kind of coming of agey, I guess. Yeah, I'm not like super interested, but it could be good. Okay, this is one I actually really want to read, Imogen, obviously. This is an LGBT romance contemporary, and I like the idea of that because it's kind of like sliding doors. Basically, the girl is bisexual. Okay, no, she's not. Sorry, she thinks she's heterosexual and like an ally to it. And then I think she kind of realizes that she's probably not just an ally, she's probably bi. Oh, this is not the book I thought it was. See, I thought this was the book where she travels and it splits between... Oh my god, this is not the book I thought it was. This is the book that I thought was that it kind of like, it skips between what happens if she stays here and develops a romance, or if she like moves away. And that's a totally different book. And like a double romance thing, so I've totally forgotten what this is about. Okay, let's read it properly, shall we? So yeah, she basically thinks she's an ally. She's super into like queer media discourse, even has 2 queer best friends. And then she meets this girl called Lily, and she visits her at campus. Oh, okay, so Lily basically pretends that Imogen and her used to date, and Imogen is actually heterosexual. So Imogen spends time with another girl called Tessa, the more she starts to wonder if her truth was ever all that straight to begin with. So yeah, I guess she realizes she was bisexual. I still want to read this though, don't get me wrong. I think I've read from Becky Albertalli before. Yes, she wrote Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda, which I really liked. So I think this is definitely an option still. Okay, the next ones. I have the Davenports next, which is the first in a series. Is this the Titanic one? No, it isn't. In 1910, the Davenports are one of the few black families of immense wealth and status in a changing United States. Their fortune made through the entrepreneurship of William Davenport, a formerly enslaved man who founded the Davenport Carriage Company. So they're basically, it's about a bunch of like the girls who are like debutantes, I guess. Sounds kind of interesting. It sounds a little bit like it's like Pride and Prejudice, but race aware. So I am intrigued by that, but I'm not really feeling like a historical. Rain, this is the 4th book in a series, so I'm not gonna read this. It's American Royals or something. I'm not super interested. We Deserve Monuments. I've heard a lot of good things about this one. So this is a LGBT contemporary romance. 17-year-old Avery is convinced her senior year is ruined when she's uprooted from her life in DC and forced into the hostile home of her terminally ill grandmother, Mama Letty. Lots of tension. Avery tries to look deeper, she's turned away, leaving her desperate to learn the secrets that split her family in 2. She finds friendship, however, in her captivating next-door neighbour Simone and Jade, daughter of the town's most prominent family, whose mother's murder remains unsolved. So the 3 girls grow closer, and it feels like there's like stuff going on in the town that is like sus. I'm interested in that. I should be marking all these as want to read that I actually do want to read. Okay, 9 Liars. This is the 5th book in a series, so I'm not even going there. I've already read Never Ever Getting Back Together. I gave it a 3-star. It was alright. I didn't love it. I loved the idea of it more than the execution. Pride and Prejudice and Pittsburgh. So I guess this is just a contemporary take on Pride and Prejudice. I read one of these recently and I wasn't a big... Oh no, it isn't. But a girl called Audrey, who's having a bad day from the sound of it. She walks into her family's convenience store, but is transported back to 1812 to become a Regency romance heroine. So she meets this girl called Lucy, who is essentially like, the heroine. And I guess they fall for each other, as they both try and over to fall for their suitors, and the happily ever afters everyone expects of them, they find instead they don't have to try at all to fall for each other. I'm not feeling Regency right now, despite the Bridgerton hype. Okay, next we have What Happens After Midnight. I've never heard of this one. Looks like it could be a mystery or a horror. Oh, it's a contemporary romance. Lily has 2 weeks until she finishes boarding school. She receives a mysterious note inviting her to join the anonymous senior class jester in executing the end-of-year prank. She realizes that Jester is none other than her ex-boyfriend. Yeah, it looks like they just cause hijinks around the campus. I'm not super interested in that. Together We Rot, I am interested in though. This is a horror, I believe. Yes. Ooh, he's in hiding from his cult family. A teen girl looking for the truth about her missing mother forms a reluctant alliance with her former best friend in exchange for hiding him from his cult-leading family. That sounds good. So basically it's about he's worried that when he turns 18 he's going to have to join his father and dedicate his life to the congregation. Oh, he's not his father's successor but his sacrifice. For the woods he's grown up with are thirsty and must be paid in blood. So he forms a reluctant partnership with this girl. There's a reason they need Elwood's blood for their satanic rituals. Something inhuman is growing inside of him. Everywhere he goes, the plants come alive and the forest calls to him. And Will isn't sure if she can save the boy she can't help but love. I'm intrigued. Okay, the last ones. This time it's real. This looks like it's a romance. Yeah, 17-year-old Eliza Lynn's essay about meeting the love of her life unexpectedly goes viral. Okay, except she's made it up. She's never been in a relationship. She strikes... Oh, it's a fake dating book, basically. Sounds alright, but it's not my kind of thing, honestly. I'm really not fussed about the fake dating trope. I feel like I've also heard this story a million times before. Thieves' Gambit. This is the start of a new series, apparently. A cinematic heist thriller. At only 17, Ross is already a master thief. Really? I find that hard to believe. She plans to run... Oh, she comes from a family of thieves. I guess that makes a bit more sense. Oh, she's entering a thief competition? The grand prize is a wish for anything... What is this book? A wish for anything in the world? Her two competitors are her childhood nemesis and a handsome guy. No, I can't take this one seriously. Yeah, no. This is Hunger Games, but for thieves. I'm good. Next we have Forget Me Not. That is an LGBT romance. What would you do if you forgot the love of your life ever even existed? Move on, I guess. They had a good love. Stevie had a fall, and when she comes to, she can remember nothing of the last 2 years. Not California, not coming to terms with her sexuality, not even Nora. Oh, that sounds depressing. I'm not wanting that. And then finally, the last book. This is a book that every time I see it on the shelves, I crack up laughing because the title is so funny. I can't get past the suddenly a murder kind of thing. So this is a mystery. It's basically about a group of friends that throw a 1920s themed party and then one of them is actually murdered. So it is a locked room mystery. It sounds fun, honestly. The issue is that it sounds fun. I don't think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be kind of trashy. So even though I kind of want to read this, I don't think it's going to be great. So I can't pick that as this because I need to pick something that I think I'm going to really enjoy. Gosh, this is tough. There's so many here I genuinely want to read. So obviously Check and Mate and 5 Survive are my 2 picks. So we've got a romance and we've got a thriller. As much as I want to read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute, I want to read Get a Life Chloe Brown first before I try her YA, so I don't think I'm going to pick this one. Something about Warrior Girl on Earth is just not calling to me. I feel like it might be too young for me. I do want to read Imogen, obviously, but I kind of want to read it less now that I didn't realise what it was about. But I am intrigued about the whole coming to terms with your sexuality thing. Honestly, actually quite interested in We Deserve Monuments. That one sounds really good. Together We Rot sounds totally up my alley. And I think that's it. I'm going to think on it. I might actually pick up both books, Imogen obviously and We Deserve Monuments. As much as I want to read Together We Rot, I feel like this would be perfect for another video, so I think I'm going to leave it, especially because it's got the lower votings. So I think it's going to be between Imogen, obviously, and We Deserve Monuments. I'm going to grab both books and see how I feel about the first chapter or so, and I'll carry on with the one I'm gelling with, I think. So yeah, I think that is my plan. So yeah, that does mean that these are my options for the history and biography. And then these are my options for YA fiction. Another reason why I think actually is that I don't want to go for Together We Rot is that we have YA fantasy as a category. And I'm a bit surprised that Together We Rot wasn't in YA fantasy. And I feel like it fits in there more than it fits into the fiction category because it doesn't sound like fiction to me. So I feel like just because I don't think it really fits the category, I kind of want to not pick it for this. Based off that, really. I'll start reading, I guess, and I'll update you once I've got something to talk about. Okay, quick update. So I've looked in all my local libraries and BorrowBox, and I cannot get hold of a copy of We Deserve Monuments, which is really frustrating. So I think for now I'm gonna go Imogen, obviously. If I happen to see a copy out and about that isn't too expensive, I might pick it up because I'm genuinely interested to read it. I don't know why it's not in any libraries. It's so weird because I feel like it has had some buzz and it feels like the type of book that should be in libraries. So yeah, just a quick check-in to say that I guess I might not be reading that one, but if I do manage to get a copy, I'll let you know, I guess. So I thought I would give you a little update on The Wager. I do indeed have the physical copy now. It's not anywhere near as thick as I thought it was going to be for a history book, and indeed, this whole section here at the back is literally just like appendix notes and stuff. So it's actually only like 250-ish sort of pages. We've also got some like photos and stuff of like art based around certain things around The Wager, like hang on, like this guy here is like the captain, David Cheap, when the whole play thing like goes down. So I'm currently at about 150 pages, chapter 16. A couple of chapters ago, much quicker than I thought, The Wager went down, basically. It couldn't handle the place it was trying to go to, the weather was too bad, everyone was getting ill, and it just ended up getting scuppered on rocks. So now the whole crew, or what is left of the crew should I say, because so many of them died due to like various diseases and scurvy, are marooned on this island, which is mostly unpopulated. There is some indigenous tribes nearby, and they actually came and helped them for a little bit, but then they kind of sensed that shit was going down. Like there were like tensions are rising, so they made themselves scarce and they vanished. And there's not a lot to eat on this island, and basically they're just struggling. We're at a point now where it looks like mutiny is beginning. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I can't say I'm massively interested. Like it's fine when I'm listening to it. Even though I've got the physical book, I am actually still reading the audiobook because I find the text a little bit small. And I actually do quite like the audiobook narrator. He's got like a good mellow voice for this kind of thing. He does kind of make it interesting while he's going on and on. But I have to say that I'm not really getting much from this. Like I finish listening to a section and I can't even really remember much that happened in it. Like it just kind of passes me by. So yeah, even though I still think the initial concept of this is quite interesting, I'm not really finding it interesting, unfortunately. So it's looking like it might end up being like a 3-star or something at this point. I don't know if it's going to manage to make it better in like the 100 or so pages that there is left to go. So yeah, that's how I'm doing with this so far. Yeah, at the moment for me, it is not feeling like a winner. But I'm also not a non-fiction reader, so I'm not really the person to critique on this. But like in terms of it being genuinely interesting for like a person who maybe isn't super interested in the topic, it's not really, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my feelings so far on it. So I have the physical copies of all of my YA fiction books now. They all came in at the same time at the library, which was great. So I have Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood, I have Five Survive by Holly Jackson, and I have Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertelli. I'm still a little bit on the fence about if I want to read this one or not, but I've actually really struggling to find copies of the other ones I was interested in, and I would maybe pick up Immortality, but I would need to read Anatomy first, and I don't want to rush read it. So I think I'm going to stick with Imogen, obviously, for now. And if I start it and I'm not feeling it, I think it's the longest of the 3 as well. Not a lot, none of them are massively chunky, but it is the longest of the 3. Oh, but the text is quite big, so it's probably still going to be a quick read. But I am a little bit like, I don't know if this is going to be as good as I thought it was going to be now, unfortunately. I'm kind of bummed I can't find a copy of We Deserve Monuments for cheap or just anywhere, because I feel like that would have been a better contender. But we're going to stick with it, and if I'm really not vibing, I will go on a hunt for one of the other books, I think. So I have all 3 of these. I think I'm not going to stop Imogen, obviously, just because I feel a bit iffy about it, but all 3 of these are ironically due back quite soon, so I am going to have to read these quite quickly. So I think I'm kind of feeling a thriller, I'm not gonna lie, so I might start with 5 Survive and then go on to Check and Mate, but you will find out whenever I next update you, I guess, which one I picked. I'm waiting for the physical copy of the 6 to come into the library. Hopefully that will be soon, and I have Killing the Witches on audiobook already because I bought that a couple of months ago. Back when I was first looking at doing this, and that one just sounded interesting, so I found it on sale and just got it then. So yeah, that's the books. I'll update you once I start reading, I guess. Okay, so I have some updates. I did indeed finish The Wager, so that is the first of the history biography section done. It was just fine. I can't say I was particularly invested in it. I did think the writing was quite good. I thought the narrator was very good as well. He really did his best with like trying to bring everything alive, and I was like, it was fine when I was listening to it, but again, like as I said before, none of it was really sticking with me. I could just tell this was a book that unfortunately was just going to disappear from my brain as soon as I'd finished it. I already can't really remember a whole lot of what happened. I felt the last couple of chapters, which dealt with like I guess the court case and stuff, was very rushed, I have to say, though. I didn't really have a clue what was happening with that. So yeah, I think it just was, it's one of those things that it's just not for me. I do think with non-fiction, unless you are genuinely interested in the topic, you're maybe just not gonna particularly love a book. So yeah, I gave this a 3 overall. It wouldn't be my winner, but I still think it's a well-written book. I can see how it did so well, but it just was not for me, unfortunately. So that is that one. I think for the next non-fiction, I'll be picking up Killing the Witches next because I have that an audiobook, and I'm still waiting for the 6 to come into the library. I don't know if it's ever going to come into the library, so I may have to audiobook that one too. But I'm quite looking forward to reading the next 2, I have to say. I think they would be more interesting for me personally, but yeah, this one just wasn't for me, basically. Hello, so coming at you with a quick update because I have indeed started Check and Mate. I am reading my very first ever Ali Hazelwood novel, and it's the YA one. So I didn't expect it to be this one that I would start off with reading her. I mean, I never really had a plan to read her, to be honest, because I'm not a big romance reader. But this one is about Mallory, and she is okay, is what I'll say so far. I'm about 78 pages in at the moment, just in the middle of chapter 7 when she is at tournament. Yeah, I can't say I'm loving it so far. I thought the beginning was a little bit rough. I wasn't really gelling with like the whole thing where like she's kind of making herself out to be a bit of a martyr, like because she sacrifices everything for her family, and I just feel like it's trying to make her out to be this like, you know, this girl that needs saving a little bit. Though I do think she's going to save herself. I have heard the romance is actually minimal in this one, which I'm happy about. But now that we're like less going on about like her home situation and her money troubles and that kind of thing, and she's actually sort of getting back into the world of chess after having not played it since an incident that happened with her father many years ago, it's actually getting more interesting and I am liking it more. It's reading fine, I'd say. I'm not like loving the language or anything like that. It isn't really coming across as super YA to me, I've got to say. I mean, Mallory I think is 18, but she is like just having like casual hookups with people. I also like she's bisexual because I didn't actually know that, and I didn't realize that she was bisexual, but that has been made very clear that she is. But yeah, I wasn't expecting some of the stuff which is more widely an adult novel than a YA novel, that she's just casually having hookups for sex essentially. But she's basically like, Mallory is this person who is like very like, she's closed herself off from everything, it feels like she's shut off any thoughts of like her future of like going to college, having a career, that kind of thing. She's just kind of like living on the breadline basically to like help her family, and she's denied herself chess as well prior to now. Even like with her friend going away, like her best friend has gone to university or something, and she's just like, oh well, that's the end of that. So she's just very like, and this is what I don't like about her, is that she's just very pessimistic and negative, and she has just basically cut herself off emotionally from everything in her life apart from her family. And even then it feels like they are just kind of a frustration to her a lot of the time. Like she says how much she loves them, but also in like, I guess it's a sibling thing, but like also they are incredibly annoying. But she is like starting to get back into this world of chess, which is something she used to love, and she's trying not to fall back in love with it again, I think, but I think that is probably what's going to happen. So yeah, it's okay so far. I'm not loving it, but it's fine. I think it's probably just going to be an easy read. I'm liking that we're hopefully going to be seeing her learning to love chess again, getting back into that world. I think that's going to be quite interesting. A little bit Queen's Gambit vibes. So yeah, I'll update you again once I've made some more progress, maybe even when I finished it, because I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot I have to say about this book, to be honest.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small.
Okay, so I finished Check and Mate last night. I actually ended up quite liking this, even though like at the beginning I was not really feeling it that much. Like I thought it was a bit slow to start, and I wasn't really liking like what was going on with her family and all that kind of thing, but actually I ended up liking this a lot more as it went on. It ended up being like a slow burn romance, which I really appreciated. I say slow burn, but like he was basically besotted with her like from the get-go, and it was like super obvious to everyone apart from Mallory, which is a trope. It's kind of annoying to me when someone is that oblivious and everyone is aware and it's so obvious to everybody apart from the main character. But actually he was really sweet. Apparently that is a trope I like, I guess, when the guy is completely and hopelessly in love with the other person. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought the chess storyline was really good. I think my only complaint for this really is Mallory. Like I found her to be very frustrating throughout. Like she's so hard-headed when she's got this like idea in her head of how things should be, and she just kind of cuts everyone off, and it's very frustrating to watch, especially when it's obvious that everyone is kind of like knows she's doing this, and even she like should be aware that this is kind of like not working out well. This is not like how she can live her life, and she just eventually kind of realized, but it's like deep in. So that is what made me lower my rating, I'd say, a little bit. I'd say this is possibly a 4, most likely more a high 3, I think, for me in total, and it's all because of Mallory, because I really did enjoy the rest of the story so much. I liked the chess storyline, I liked the other characters who were in it, even if I did find the siblings kind of annoying a lot of the time, but I did really like Nolan. I liked the other characters that showed up. I did think that the whole thing with like Mallory's friend Easton was dragged out way too long. I feel like that should have kind of resolved itself. I would have preferred it to have resolved itself a little bit early, because it felt a little bit last minute with how things kind of resolved it, and I feel like it maybe shouldn't have resolved as easily as it was, but I don't know, that's just my opinion on it basically. Actually, right, like this, I did like the romance. I just didn't really like Mallory as a character, unfortunately, for quite a while. She was just, as I said, so frustrating. So yeah, I think it's a high 3, low 4. And yeah, I guess I can say that I finally read an Ali Hazelwood book, and I actually liked it. I don't know if I would ever reread this, to be honest, because I just think the protagonist peed me off too much, basically, but I did like it otherwise. So yeah, I'm not averse to be reading more Ali Hazelwood when I get to the romance category, and hopefully I will like her female protagonists more than I liked Mallory. But yeah, overall, pretty solid. I'm still a little bit sketchy on whether this is YA. It had moments of feeling like it was YA. Like, I feel like the chess tournament stuff did feel like it could have fit in a YA storyline, but I also think the romance stuff fitted more perhaps in an adult book. It does kind of fit somewhere for me in between YA and adult in total. But yeah, Not a bad book. Actually surprised myself, and I quite enjoyed it at the end. Like, it is the overall enjoyment, and that I left this book actually feeling really happy with how it all resolved. That makes me want to give it a 4, because I did genuinely enjoy it the more I got on, and I got super into it. It's just that first bit was kind of rough. I'll be moving on to my second YA book now, so let me just grab that. I have Five Survive next by Holly Jackson. Very in the mood for a thriller, to be honest, now after the romance stuff. So I'm hoping I'll enjoy this. I feel like it's going to be like a very quick kind of read. I do have this in audio book too, just in case I don't manage to finish it in time before the library steals it back from me. So yeah, I guess I'll check in once I've actually made some progress on this with my thoughts. So I actually didn't update at all throughout me reading Five Survive. I ended up reading this basically in one day. I think I started it before going to bed previous night, and then I listened to most of it on the audiobook, to be honest, throughout the rest of the day. I was like not really loving the writing style, so I thought I switched to the audiobook for a bit, and that was better, I think. But then I did end up like just reading the last little bit via the book instead, because I felt like I was maybe possibly going to miss some things with the last reveals. And also, like, this last little bit here has, like, let me show you, it's got like some like officer transcripts and like an article and stuff, and I thought that would be better to read in there. Unfortunately, I didn't really like this. This was a 2-star for me. It was okay. I just didn't really like any of the characters. I still think the initial concept is really strong for this, but it really falls into that thing that I think is why I'm not really a big fan of YA thrillers, in that all of the characters, when they're kind of stuck all in one place together, are just awful to one another. And that's just, I just don't like seeing that, I guess. And I always see it in like teen YA thriller kind of stuff. Not necessarily in adult thrillers as much, but like everyone was just horrible a lot of the time to one another. Like obviously one character in particular ends up sort of taking charge and becoming this horrible bully through a lot of this. And yeah, I just wasn't really loving it. I thought there were some interesting things that was done with our main character, Red, and she suffers with, I don't know if it's ADHD that she's struggling with, or it's like a PTSD kind of thing given to what's happened to her, but like she's very like all over the place. And like she will constantly be getting distracted by things. Like there was a whole thing where she would be constantly trying to work out what this like pattern is that's on a curtain, which, by the way, we never found out what the pattern in the curtain was, which really annoyed me. Like I thought I really wanted to have that at least, because she obsessed about it so much. And yeah, I kind of predicted quite a few things that were going to happen with this, and even like the final like reveal of what the whole deal was behind why they were being targeted in this RV, I didn't like it. Like I just didn't like that storyline. So yeah, I just didn't have a good time with it basically. Don't know if I'll check out Holly Jackson again from this. Like I obviously have heard really good things about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but this was just a miss for me. Again, great concept, love the whole thing in that like it's set over 8 hours. I didn't feel the timing stuff was really done as well as it could have been. Like I felt like it could have been any kind of era time, honestly. Like I felt like this could have happened in 3 hours, given how little the time passing really made a difference, to be honest, in terms of the plot. Like it was quite quick paced, and like I say, it was an easy read, it was quick paced, so I didn't hate it because of that. Like I got through it, I could finish it, but it's definitely not a book that I'll ever pick up again. And honestly, I feel like it's the kind of book that a few days afterwards, I'm just gonna forget everything that happened, basically. Like, yeah, all the characters were very kind of tropey. Yeah, I saw a lot of it coming. The final villain was the villain, like the reveal of who the person was who was kind of like pulling strings behind the scenes was a little too obvious, and I'd actually hoped it was somebody else instead, because I think that would have been more juicy. I'd kind of hoped it was Maddie, who was like the best friend, and then it was nothing to do with Maddie. Maddie did have a whole thing, actually, to be fair, which was interesting, but yeah, again, I just wasn't a fan of this. It's certainly not objectively bad, but for me at least, it just did not hit. So yeah, 2-star for me on this one, I'm afraid. Just did not like it. So, an update. I've been listening to the audiobook of Killing the Witches, and I have almost finished it. I have maybe an hour or so left. Yeah, I have thoughts. I don't think my end impressions are really going to change all that much with only an hour to go, so I figure I'll just kind of give my review now, but whilst I'm sort of like near a camera, and I'll just kind of confirm or deny if my thoughts were any different or not once I do finish it. But basically, I did like the narrator for this one audiobook, by the way. I thought it was quite a good narrator, but the issue with this book is the first 40% of this book is about the Salem witch trials. It goes into detail. I was quite enjoying it. I did actually find listening to this was very listenable, very readable. It very much just felt like I was listening to a documentary a lot of the time. It was very, it was very what is the word? When something is like very accessible, I suppose, like even not knowing necessarily a large amount of the history around it, it felt very easy to understand and know what was happening. The reason why I say it's kind of like a documentary is that basically it very much just tells you the events in order of what happens and gives you a lot of like texts and stuff which kind of states everything that happens, but there really wasn't very much of the author himself putting his own thoughts into what he felt about what was going on. Like, there was some sarcasm here and there, maybe some like little things, but really it just felt like he was just kind of telling you what happened and not really giving you anything more than that, which I felt was a little bit missing. Like, I kind of like, you know, I can just read a history book. It was a history book, but like I can read a textbook. For that, I can go to the Wikipedia entry to find all that sort of stuff out, but I really wanted to hear what the author thought about what this was happening. There really wasn't very much of that, but I was still quite liking it. I was still finding it very interesting, so I was having a good time with it. And then we hit past the 40% mark, and the book decides we're just going to forget about the Salem witch trials. And it just goes on about, we occasionally have a couple of links back here and there that the author remembers. Oh yeah, we need to go back to Salem every so often, and we'll talk about religion, and we'll talk a little bit about the people who were involved in the witch trials, like Mathers, that kind of thing. But basically it just goes completely away from the Salem witch trials and just goes on and on about like the founding fathers and the American Revolution and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not like an American person, so like none of this really makes a whole lot of sense to me anyway, because I don't really know a lot of American history. I still haven't seen Hamilton, I know. It just felt so out of place, because it felt like we were reading a book that was about the Salem witch trials, and then we've totally switched to a different book which has absolutely nothing to do with the Salem witch trials. It's also very boring as well. It's been very dry, this last part of it, probably because, again, this is not the book that I was reading, that I was interested in reading, and now we're just giving this like long history lesson about what's happening to the people throughout all of this. And it's just their life story now. And I'm like, this is not what I wanted to read about. I wanted to read about at the people who were involved in the witch trials, and we're really not getting that anymore. So I'm actually feeling really disappointed with it now. Like, from that first part, I was like, I'm actually really liking this. I was enjoying it more than The Wager, definitely. And I was like, this could possibly be a 4-star, maybe a high 3. I think it's going to be a 2 now, because this sudden change completely on the topic and what the book is about has just come totally out of left field. It is just not the book anymore that this book is supposed to be, and it's really boring. Like, I've upped the speed on the audiobook just to try and get through it faster, because I just don't care. This is not what this book was supposed to be about. So yeah, I'm feeling really disappointed with this one, because it had the glimmers of being a really good book, and it just did not do what it said on the tin. So yeah, that's really disappointing. I did get the audiobook as well for the last historical on my list. I've been waiting from 2 different libraries now for a hold to come in for the 6th, and there is no movement whatsoever. I suspect they may have been lost, or they're just still with somebody and they're never coming back. So I've just bitten the bullet and I've just got the audiobook. I am finding that reading this kind of like non-fiction stuff, audiobook is kind of the way to go for me. So I'm hoping I will find this one to be better written. I know the author for this one is a NASA like journalist, so I'm hoping there will be a lot more personal insights and yeah, just a better book and all, because I've not enjoyed either of these 2 books so far. And yes, I know this maybe speaks to the fact that I am not really a non-fiction reader, but I do think that if the non-fiction book is 1, a good book, and 2, a book about something that you're interested in, I will still like it. And I was enjoying Killing the Witches for that first little bit of it before I decided to be a totally different book altogether. So yeah, that is the update for now. I'm going to finish Killing the Witches. I'm probably going to have a break before I move on to the 6th, but it's an audiobook, so I'll get through it quickly. So yeah, those are my updates. Unfortunately, nothing great so far. I am having a mixed time with the YA fiction as well, to be honest. At this point, I have read Check and Mate, which I did like, and I've read 5 Survive, which I did not like. So yeah, we'll see. I have 1 left of each, basically. I also have the 6. I have decided, actually, after much debating back and forth, and just the fact that I can't stop thinking about it, I'm not going to read Imogen, obviously. I did just cave, and I picked up a copy of We Deserve Monuments, which should be arriving in a couple of days. So I'm going to be reading that one instead, because I just think it's the more interesting one on the list. I really don't think, given what I've read so far, that Imogen obviously is going to end up being a favourite of mine. Watch me eat my words, because I would like to still read it one day, but for me, right now, I feel like We Deserve Monuments possibly has a better chance of being a favourite. So yeah, that is the update. I will check back in again once I have something more to say, hopefully something more positive. Look what arrived! I finally caved and ordered my own copy of We Deserve Monuments. I believe it's a second hand, but look what a little plant it's got on the cover. That's so cute. But yeah, I am super hyped. I'm glad I decided to get this, just because I feel like I would have regretted it, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this book. Especially once I realised that Imogen obviously was not the book I thought it was. I'm actually going to put a picture here, I guess, of the book I thought it was. I totally mixed it up with another book altogether. Yeah, I'll get to reading this soon, hopefully. Excuse the rather weird lighting. It has done nothing but pour with rain today. But I have started reading the last non-fiction book, The 6th, by audiobook, and I'm actually quite liking it so far. I think it's a very like easy to listen to kind of thing. I guess that really can tell that because the writer, I think, is like a NASA journalist, so it's very accessible. So far we're mostly just going over all the different women and like their histories and stuff that leads them to obviously becoming astronauts, and the whole debate around women being able to go into space, which America was very firmly against for a while, and then I think Russia picked them to the post basically and sent someone out. But I'm actually really quite enjoying it so far. This might end up being the only non-fiction I actually enjoy of this group. So yeah, I am only about 25% in so far, so I'll check it again once I'm further in, or when I finish probably. So yeah, but so far so good. Hello, so a very quick update, also a bit of a book haul because I was bad and bought some books today. I also had a pre-order come in, but I also finished the audiobook of The Six, and I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. However, it was my favourite of the three non-fiction, easily, to be honest. Like, I found it the most interesting. I thought it was written better. I thought there was like a better narrative flow to it. And yeah, like I can't really say I remember too much about it, but I remember liking it. So I gave it a 3-star overall, which is silly because all three of the Killing the Witches was a 2-star, and both The Wager and The Six are 3 stars, but I am putting The Six above The Wager easily. It's probably like a mid to high 3, I would say, whereas I think The Wager is more of a low 3. So that is all of the non-fiction. Honestly, I look back at the non-fiction and I feel like I've forgotten most of it already. Sorry, that is all the history, should I say, not the non-fiction. That's a totally different category. But yeah, I think history just maybe isn't for me, or at least what it was talking about in these books was not really something that sticks with me, unfortunately. So yeah, I enjoyed The Six the most. I would never reread any of these. I'd never buy any of them. Yeah, this is not really a category for me, unfortunately. Yeah, those are my thoughts overall on that. So I guess I just have the one book left to read, which is gonna be We Deserve Monuments. I feel like I've not had very good luck with my books so far in this vlog. Like, the only one I've really liked so far has been Checkmate, and I guess I liked The Six, but like in a way that I've already forgotten most of it. So I'm really hoping that We Deserve Monuments is gonna be the best book. But we will see. I'll be starting it in a couple of days once I finish some other things that I'm reading. But I got a book haul. I did go to the bookshops today on my lunch break, and I wasn't going to buy anything, but these are some books that I've been like wanting to pick up for ages, and I just finally caved. So I picked up Monstrilio. The UK edition is so different to the American one. I didn't even recognise it at first. This is also the first time I've seen this in bookshops. It feels like it's just not been around, even though it came out last year. So I guess this is a spoiler for one I'll be reading in a future update. I also got a little like matching bookmark that the bookseller put in there for me. But this is a queer horror, essentially, about a grieving mother. She's just lost her son, and she ends up like growing something from a bit of his leftovers, and it becomes this like creature called Monstrilio, and she's kind of raising it, I guess. So yeah, it sounds pretty creepy. I'm very excited to read it. I also picked up A Magical Girl Retires by Park Seol-yeon. I've wanted to pick this up for ages, ever since I heard this was a thing. It is basically about a very depressed woman who tries to take a dive off a bridge and gets rescued by a magical girl who thinks that she is going to be the best magical girl ever. It plays a lot on like magical girl tropes and stuff. If you know anime, you know what magical girls are. But it is stunning. But these last 2 books I bought now mostly because I want to get them whilst they're still in hardback, because I prefer to read in hardback. So yeah, I did pick up this, and then I finally picked up Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis because I've just been dying to read this, and again I was just like, it's finally time. I've been wanting to pick this up basically since it came out. And this is a mystery. I feel like it's going to be kind of slice of lifey because it says it's like perfect for fans of Becky Chambers, Martha Wells, and Aliette de Bodard, and at least Becky Chambers, I know, writes more kind of like cozy, almost slice of lifey kind of stuff. So yeah, a sci-fi that I think I will actually like. And then finally, I did get a pre-order come in today, and I'm pretty sure I know what this is because I also saw it in the bookshop today, and I know it's just released. Yes, this is what I think it is. Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. Funnily enough, I bought like the standard edition because I think the special edition wasn't available when I pre-ordered it. I went in the bookshop and they had the special edition on the shelves, so I could have just bought it. But yeah, this is Juno Dawson's new book. This is like a prequel kind of thing to Her Majesty's Royal Coven series. It's really small. It is not that long at all. It is... how long is this? not even 200 pages, so this is really short. But I'm looking forward to reading it anyway. I love Her Majesty's Royal Coven. This is basically going back in time to Anne Boleyn, and in the series, Anne Boleyn basically set up the whole like coven thing. So she is a witch in this, and yeah, I don't know much else about it because it's literally just released. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. I'll probably pick it up next month because I want to get to it ASAP. And we also finally got a release date for the third book in the series, which I think is going to be the finale, and it's coming out next year. So that's exciting. I'm glad we finally got a release date for that, because I know a lot of people were angry because we didn't have a release date, and then we got this before we got like the last book in the series. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. That's it, really. Hello, so the quickest of updates. Once again, this is just going to be faceless, but enjoy my very colourful nails because I am cosplaying tomorrow. And the character in question has a whole pink and purple design going on. That's his wig just falling off there, excuse me. I started reading Wondershare Monuments today. I am already about 116 pages in, and I'm happy to report that I am loving this. The writing is great, the characters feel so real, and I'm eating it up, basically. This is already like only 100 pages in, better than the other two YA fiction books by far. Not that I dislike Check and Mate, but I definitely struggled with that in the beginning, and this is just great already so far. So I'm really happy that I am actually enjoying this because I just felt so drawn to it. So it felt like I'd have been really disappointed if I hadn't have liked it. But you know, I'm I'm like 1/3 of the way through, getting through it quite fast, so it could change. But at the moment, I'm loving it. So yeah, I'll be hopefully finishing that over the weekend. I'm at a convention tomorrow, so there'll likely be some footage of that. But I'm also going to be starting When the Moon Hatched. I'm doing a buddy read of this with Jules Gemhardt. So I'm hoping to just kind of like go back and forth between these two. Very different books. But yeah, positive updates so far. Very happy to say that this is meeting my expectations at the moment.
You don't by any chance know the way through this library?
So I'm here with the final update for this video, and I have appropriately dressed extremely colourful to match We Deserve Monuments. I wish these were sunflowers, but sadly they are not, but they kind of give the right vibe. But yes, I did indeed finish this book, and I think even just 100 pages in, I was kind of like, I think this is going to be a 5-star. Like, everything was just working, the flow was good, the characters just felt really real, and I like how, even though this is very much marketed, I saw on the Goodreads page, as being a romance, this is a drama, really. There is a romance, but it doesn't really like take away from all the other things that are going in the book, in the issues of racism, in the issues of the mystery around what happened to our main character Avery's grandfather, to the grief about her grandmother who was dying, and also about her getting to know her, getting to grips with her family being in this kind of messy state because of her grandmother and her mother's previous arguments and stuff, and just generally just like life being messy for someone who was 17. Avery is somebody who had kind of had this life back in wherever she was, I've already forgotten. And she had these friends that didn't treat her very well, and basically her whole life was geared towards her following in her mother's footsteps and doing academic success. And then she realizes when she comes here and she starts to think about things that she hasn't let herself think about because her friends don't approve of it, or like they don't want to talk about it, she starts seeing things outside of that box of how she positioned herself being in life and how she wants to do other things. And she ends up realizing what things are important to her because of that, and she ends up taking a different path in life. And I just thought this was amazing, honestly. This was a 5-star book for me, which I didn't think I would say for a YA book very often, but I think this generally does transcend the age range that it's meant for. Like, I would have loved to read this when I was a teenager. Like, I think it is perfect for teenagers, but I also think it's something that someone of any age can get something out of. There is so much love and heart in this. There's so much love for the queer community as well. There's this whole like thing where because basically like they're in this very small like southern town, and it feels like it's very white and traditional, and then they find out basically that there's this like secret queer like getaway bar essentially, and that was such a lovely moment. And yeah, there was just so many lovely things in this book, and yeah, I'm really happy that I felt the draw towards it and that I felt like I was missing out if I didn't end up picking this one, because I do have to say, of the free fiction I read, this is obviously the favorite. So that is my quick fire review of it. I read this basically in like 2 sittings. I think it was so easy to read and I was just super invested. I did cry towards the end. I was like reading on my lunch break at work, and it was getting to like a bit that was quite emotional near the end, and I was like, I can't tear up now, I've got to go back to work in a second. But yeah, I really love this. I would highly recommend it. Honestly, if you want something that is just full of so much heart but also has so much to say about people, basically. So yeah, that is my thoughts on We've Deserved Monuments. So let us take a look at the YA fiction books again and see how the end results of it are for me. Okay, so I have my trusty laptop here, and I'm going to be looking at all the YA books I have indeed read from the fiction category, and I'm going to be ranking them. So in total, I did read 3 books for this video, but I had already read one of them, which was Never Ever Getting Back Together. For me, definitely 5 Survive is at the bottom. I gave it a 2-star. I just really didn't enjoy it. It really wasn't for me. It just didn't have any lasting impact, and it was a quick read, but honestly, I don't think there was anything that amazing about it, which really kind of put it into that. I wouldn't have even put it in for the choices for this, quite honestly, but I'm aware that Holly Jackson is a very popular author, so that probably is what pushed it over. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't have put that as like 3rd place out of them all. So yeah, that would be the bottom one for me. Then I would rate Never Ever Getting Back Together, which I believe was number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in the choices. I think I gave that a 3-star overall. It had some good things. I enjoyed the vibes and the premise of it, but I don't think the execution really was amazing, to be honest. So yeah, I would put that next. Then I would put the winner, Checkmate. This obviously got about 68,000 votes. It won the best young adult fiction, but for me personally, I did really like it, but it was a 4-star for me, and there were just too many elements in there that made it so I just didn't end up loving it as I think some people did. It just didn't quite work for me in all areas. But for me, definitely, this is my winner with a 5-star. It was, I'm just double checking now, it was number 11 in the Goodreads Awards, and it has just under 6,000 votes, which is so much less than the 68,000 that Checkmate got. And I really think this is the better book. in terms of everything, honestly, in terms of writing, in terms of characters, in terms of the topics it's trying to say, in terms of the message it's trying to say, the topics it covers, that kind of thing. I really do think that this is the best of the full four of the ones that I read. Obviously, this is just my personal opinion, but yeah, for me, this is my winner. So that just means that I have to then look at my was it the non-fiction? Sorry, no, I have to compare the history to the YA fiction, and I think obviously it's pretty clear that for me at least YA fiction won, because although I didn't hate the non-fiction books, I gave one I really didn't like, and then the other two, one of them was fine and the other one I thought was a bit better than fine, but none of them really stuck with me, and I think that's just a me thing. I don't think this is a judgment of the actual genre itself. I'm just not really the right audience for that. But for me personally, fiction has definitely won. YA fiction, sorry, has definitely won over the history and biography. Like, very different from the first video where I was actually quite torn between adult fiction and romantasy. Like, it was a very close. This one is a very clear winner, in that even though I feel like there's definitely a lot of YA fiction that doesn't work for me, some really still does, which is nice to see, because I really do feel like I'm aging out of YA fiction a lot now, and I don't tend to go for it very often, and when I do go for it, there are things that I don't like as much, and I'm just like feeling like it's not really for me. But I am glad to see that there are some things that I genuinely really do love even so, and there are still books from this that I would want to read. Like, I want to read, what is it, the Anatomy series. I want to read the Talia Hibbert book. I still want to give Imogen, obviously, a chance, even though I mixed it up with a totally different book. Davenport's does intrigue me. Obviously, Together We Rot, because it's a horror, is very up my alley. Part of me wants to try Suddenly a Murder, even though it's probably dreadful, and it was literally the last place, but there we go. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty diverse selection, to be honest, in the YA fiction. And yeah, even though this, as I say, there's lots of books that I wouldn't really want to read, there are still books I would want to read, whereas I think there's only a couple in the history that I would maybe check out, and even then, I don't think I'm probably going to rate it super high, unfortunately. So that is it for the second part of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Part 3 will be coming fairly soon, I think, and in it I am going to be looking at YA fantasy versus non-fiction. Which was very confusing though, because my brain was like, I just did non-fiction, but no, history and non-fiction are two different categories, which still confuses me. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, stay safe, stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!